The snow fell harder that evening, blanketing the small alien village in a thick layer of white. Lyra hugged her little pet closely, shivering as the icy wind cut through her thin jacket. Her small paws trembled against her chest, and her pet, a glowing furry creature with soft blue fur, nestled into her warmth. She whispered softly, "We can survive this. Don't worry." But the biting cold made her doubt her words. The village had been abandoned weeks ago after the warships came, and everyone fled except those too weak to run. Lyra and her pet were the last ones, and the silence around them was heavy, broken only by the whistling wind. She tried to move forward, but the snow was deep, and each step felt like dragging herself through a frozen sea. Her vision blurred and her teeth chattered, and for a moment she wondered if this was the end. She stopped on a frozen ridge, looking down at the valley below, and her pet shivered violently in her arms. "I promise we will make it," she said again. But the wind laughed at her promise, cold and cruel. Suddenly, a shadow moved in the distance, and Lyra froze, unsure if it was another survivor or a predator. Her heart pounded in her chest, and she held her pet closer. Trying to appear smaller, the shadow grew larger, and soon she saw a human figure trudging through the snow. Tall and strong, the human wore a heavy coat and a glowing visor. Scanning the area carefully, Lyra's pet made a small sound, and the human looked up. Spotting her immediately, "Hey, over here!" Lyra shouted, her voice barely carrying through the storm. The human waved and came closer, moving fast but cautiously as they approached. Lyra noticed something strange about the human. They were not afraid, they had confidence, a calm that cut through the panic in her heart. He knelt down, smiling gently. "You're safe now, little one," he said. Reaching out to help her, Lyra hesitated for a moment, then handed over her shivering pet, and the human wrapped it in his coat, shielding it from the wind. Her heart filled with hope, something she had not felt in days. The storm raged on, but with the human's strength and warmth, she felt she could survive, maybe even escape the frozen valley. As they began walking together, the wind howled around them. Threatening to push them back, Lyra stumbled, nearly falling into a hidden crevice. But the human caught her hand, steadying her. "You have to keep moving," he said, voice firm but kind. "We can make it if we don't give up." She nodded, tears freezing on her cheeks, thankful for this stranger who appeared when she thought all hope was lost. Her pet purred softly in the human's coat, feeling safe, and Lyra smiled weakly. The journey ahead was long and dangerous, with predators, icy cliffs, and hidden traps left by the war. But for the first time in days, Lyra felt a spark of courage. "A reason to keep going," she whispered. "Thank you." But the human only nodded, eyes scanning the horizon, and in that moment, Lyra realized that perhaps humans were not just strange creatures of another world. They could also be saviors, heroes, capable of changing fate with courage and kindness. The snow continued to fall, but Lyra walked a little taller, holding on to hope. She did not know what awaited them in the valley below, only that she would face it with her pet and the human who appeared when she needed help the most. The storm seemed endless, but so was the resilience of those who refused to give up. And as night fell, the cold seemed less cruel, and the world a little brighter, because she was not alone, not anymore. The human led Lyra and her pet down the ridge carefully, each step a battle against the thick snow. The valley stretched below them, a vast expanse of white broken only by frozen rocks and jagged cliffs. Lyra's small hands clutched the edge of her jacket, her pet peeking out of the human's warm coat, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. The wind screamed through the valley, and every step forward felt heavier than the last. The human moved steadily, confident, scanning every corner as if he could see threats hiding beneath the snow. "Where are we going?" Lyra asked, her voice barely audible. Frozen from both cold and fear, he glanced at her, eyes sharp behind the visor. "There's a safe place nearby, a shelter built by humans long ago," he said. Lyra's heart skipped a beat, a spark of hope glowing inside her chest. She had never heard of human shelters, and the idea that warmth and safety awaited them made her legs move faster. As they descended, the snow changed texture, hard and slippery in some places, soft and powdery in others. Her pet stumbled, letting out a soft cry, and the human reached out, catching it gently. "You have to hold on tight," he said, wrapping the small creature closer to his chest. "One misstep, and we could fall into the ice crevices." Lyra nodded, fear and trust battling inside her. The valley was eerily quiet, only the crunch of snow beneath their feet breaking the silence. But every shadow seemed alive, and every gust of wind sounded like a predator waiting to strike. She glanced around nervously, imagining creatures lurking in the snow, watching, waiting for the weak. Her mind raced with stories of travelers who had vanished in this frozen wasteland, never to return. But the human's presence was a steady anchor, calming her panic with each measured step he took. Suddenly, the ground beneath them cracked, a sharp sound that made Lyra stumble backward. The human reacted instantly, pulling her and her pet close, keeping them safe from the hidden fissure. "Careful," he warned, voice tense but controlled. "These snow bridges are fragile. One wrong move and we could be trapped forever." Lyra's pulse raced, fear sharpening her senses, and she followed every step carefully. Trusting his guidance, the valley seemed endless, cliffs rising on both sides, icy winds whipping through the narrow passage. Her fingers were numb, her toes frozen despite her boots, and yet she kept moving. The human's determination was infectious, filling her with courage she did not know she had. After what felt like hours, a dim light appeared in the distance. Faint but steady, Lyra's eyes widened and her pet stirred. Sensing the warmth and safety that the light promised, the human quickened his pace slightly, urging her to follow. "This way," he said. "We are close now, stay with me." As they approached, Lyra could see a small structure half buried in snow but intact. With walls strong enough to withstand the storm, she could smell smoke from a chimney, faint but promising warmth and life. Relief washed over her, making her knees weak, and she almost fell. But the human steadied her immediately. "You're safe," he whispered. Though the storm was not yet fully behind them, inside, "We can rest and plan the next move." They entered the shelter, and Lyra immediately felt the difference. The cold replaced by faint heat and the soft hum of machinery. Her pet leaped out of the coat, running in circles, purring, its glowing fur casting small lights across the walls. The human smiled, setting down supplies he carried, and began clearing a small area for them to rest. Lyra sank onto a soft mat, shivering less now, and looked around, eyes wide in wonder. The shelter was small but well-equipped, designed to withstand storms like the one outside. She realized humans were not just strong, they were clever, capable of surviving in places no one else could. Her heart felt heavy with gratitude, and she whispered to her pet, "We are lucky, so lucky," outside. The storm continued, fierce and relentless, but inside the shelter life returned, even if just a little. Lyra and her pet huddled together, sharing warmth, and for the first time, she allowed herself to feel safe. The human prepared a small heater, and the soft glow filled the room, casting long shadows on the walls. He looked at her, eyes thoughtful. "You have been very brave to survive this long," he said. "But the danger is not over yet." Lyra nodded, understanding that the journey was far from finished. The frozen valley had tested them, but it had also brought them together, human and alien, two unlikely allies bound by survival. As night fell, Lyra watched the human move carefully around the shelter, ensuring everything was secure. And in that moment, she realized that hope was more powerful than fear, and trust could appear even in the harshest storms. The valley outside howled, the snow blinding and relentless, but inside, Lyra felt a fire in her chest. She clutched her pet, eyes wide with curiosity and determination, ready to face whatever came next. With a human by her side, she knew she could survive, and maybe even change the course of her fate. The storm was not the enemy anymore, not with courage and friendship guiding her steps. And as she closed her eyes for a brief rest, she whispered softly, "Thank you," though she did not know if the human could hear. But the warmth, the shelter, and the presence of an ally gave her a sense of hope stronger than the cold. Morning arrived with a pale light, barely breaking through the storm clouds that still covered the sky. Lyra sat by the small heater, her pet curled on her lap, glowing faintly as it purred softly. The warmth of the shelter was comforting, but she knew that outside the frozen valley was still dangerous. The human moved quietly around the shelter, checking equipment and securing the entrances. He seemed calm, but Lyra noticed the tension in his movements, a silent warning that survival was never easy. "Who are you?" Lyra finally asked, her voice low but curious. The human paused, kneeling to meet her gaze, visor reflecting her wide eyes. "I am called Kale," he said simply. "I help those in need, no matter where they are from." Lyra tilted her head, trying to understand. "But why help me? I am small, weak, and alien." Kale smiled faintly. "Weakness is only dangerous if you give up," he said. "And you did not give up, so I help you." Her chest swelled with gratitude and respect. She had never met a human so kind and strong. Her pet twitched its ears, sensing the honesty in Kale's voice, and Lyra stroked its soft fur, comforted by the moment. But the peace was short-lived. A sharp sound echoed outside, metallic and deliberate. Kale's eyes snapped toward the wall, scanning the frozen landscape beyond the shelter. "Stay here," he said quietly, moving to the entrance. Pulling a small device from his belt, Lyra held her pet close, heart racing, her mind filled with questions and fear. The snow outside shifted strangely, footprints appearing in the storm, leading toward the shelter. "They are tracking us," Kyle muttered under his breath. "We are not alone." Lyra's stomach dropped, fear gripping her like icy chains. "What? What do they want?" she whispered, voice trembling. Kale's jaw tightened. "Some humans, some aliens. They hunt those who survive," he explained. "They see them as prizes or threats, or experiments." The thought made Lyra shiver. But Kale did not hesitate, moving with careful precision. He activated a shield that flickered briefly in the snow, creating a barrier around the shelter. Lyra watched in awe as energy lines formed, cutting through the storm like invisible walls. Her pet hissed softly, sensing danger even before Lyra understood it. Footsteps grew louder, closer, crunching over the snow and ice outside. Kyle adjusted the shield, muttering, "We need to leave before they break the perimeter." Lyra felt panic rise, but she trusted him, her heart clinging to hope that they could escape. "Where will we go?" she asked, voice tight. Kale motioned to a hidden hatch in the floor, partially buried under supplies. "This leads to an underground passage, built by humans long ago for emergencies," he explained. Lyra's eyes widened. "Underground? How do we know it is safe?" Kale gave a faint smile. "Nothing is truly safe, but it is safer than staying here." Her pet twitched nervously, but Kale lifted it gently, wrapping it in his coat together. They approached the hatch, footprints from the hunters crunching closer above them. Kale opened it, revealing a dark tunnel descending into the earth. Cold but shielded from the storm, Lyra swallowed hard, fear and excitement mixing into a strange cocktail of determination. As they descended, the tunnel walls hummed faintly, powered by old human technology. Lyra's pet clung to her, glowing softly, and she whispered, "It's okay, we are safe for now." Kale moved ahead, scanning for traps or dangers, every step measured and careful. The tunnel twisted and turned, long and winding, until they reached a larger chamber, hidden deep underground. Here the air was warmer, and faint lights illuminated the space, revealing old supplies and equipment. "This is our temporary shelter," Kale said. "We can rest and plan, but we cannot stay long." Lyra looked around, awe and relief mixing with lingering fear. She realized how much humans could survive, how clever they were in planning for dangers that no one else could see. Outside, the storm continued to rage, and somewhere above, the hunters circled. Unaware of the hidden passage, Lyra clutched her pet, grateful for Kale's quick thinking and feeling a surge of courage. She understood now that survival required more than warmth or food. It required allies, trust, and courage. Kale looked at her, eyes soft behind his visor. "You have potential," he said. "More than you know." Lyra felt a strange pride, though fear still lingered, and she whispered to herself, "I have to survive. We have to survive." The hunters would not give up easily, but Lyra knew now that she was not alone. With Kale by her side and her pet glowing with life, she felt the spark of determination burn brighter. And as night fell in the frozen valley above, Lyra prepared herself for the challenges yet to come. The hidden threat was real, but so was the human who had saved her, and together they could face anything. The underground chamber offered temporary safety, but Lyra could feel the weight of danger pressing on her. She hugged her pet close, the small creature's glow reflecting in her wide eyes. Kale moved quietly around the chamber, checking devices and old equipment. His hands steady and precise, he glanced at her. "We cannot stay here long," he said, voice calm but urgent. "They will find the tunnel eventually." Lyra nodded, fear tightening her chest but determination burning in her heart. She had survived the storm. She had survived the valley, and now she would survive this too. Kale led her to a hidden exit, a narrow tunnel that spiraled upward, back toward the surface. "The hunters will expect us to flee in the open," he said. "We will take a secret path, an ice labyrinth few humans know exists." Lyra's eyes widened. "An ice labyrinth?" she asked, voice trembling. Kale nodded. "It is dangerous, but it is the fastest way out of the valley and away from them. Her pet let out a soft chirp, sensing both excitement and fear in Lyra. She took a deep breath, gripping Kyle's hand. Ready to face whatever lay ahead, the tunnel opened into a vast underground ice cavern, walls shimmering with frozen crystals. The light from Lyra's pet reflected across the ice, creating moving patterns that danced like spirits. Kale led the way carefully, scanning the cavern for traps or unstable ice. Lyra followed closely, her heart pounding, each step echoing in the hollow chamber. The labyrinth was treacherous, with frozen streams cutting across the path, jagged ice spikes jutting from the walls. One wrong move could send them plunging into the icy depths below. As they navigated, strange noises echoed around them. Distant but menacing, shadows danced across the walls, created by the flickering lights, and Lyra imagined creatures hiding in the ice. Her mind raced with possibilities, some terrifying, some impossible. Kale moved with confidence, guiding her through narrow corridors and twisting tunnels. "This way," he whispered, "stay close. And do not panic," Lyra nodded, her breath fogging in the cold air, holding her pet tighter. The pet's soft glow pulsed like a heartbeat, giving her courage, a reminder that life still thrived around her. Suddenly the ice beneath them shifted, a loud crack splitting the silence. Lyra stumbled, sliding toward a deep crevice, and her pet squealed, clinging to her neck. Kale reacted instantly, grabbing her arm and pulling her to safety. "Careful," he warned, eyes sharp, scanning for further instability. The labyrinth was alive, dangerous, and unforgiving, testing their strength and courage at every step. But Lyra did not give up, each step forward a testament to her will to survive. She had learned from the storm, from the hunters, and from the valley that fear was an obstacle. Not a sentence, they pressed on, moving deeper into the labyrinth. And Lyra noticed faint carvings on the ice walls, symbols she did not recognize, glowing faintly in the light of her pet. "Humans built this?" she asked, voice curious. Kale nodded. "Long ago, humans created shelters and escape routes in these mountains," he explained. "Few know they exist today, even among humans." Lyra marveled at the ingenuity, the cleverness of a species so strong yet so thoughtful. Her respect for Kale grew, seeing him as both protector and guide, someone capable of surviving where others would fail. Hours passed as they navigated the twisting corridors, the labyrinth seeming endless. The sound of the storm above grew faint, replaced by the eerie silence of the ice cavern. But danger was not gone. Footprints from the hunters appeared faintly on the icy floor, leading them to believe they were being followed. Kale tightened his grip on her hand, eyes scanning every shadow. "They are close," he muttered, voice low. Lyra's heart pounded, but she moved without hesitation, trusting him completely. The labyrinth tested them with sudden drops, hidden spikes, and icy bridges that creaked under their weight. Yet with each obstacle, Lyra grew braver, more confident, learning to move like Kale, silent, cautious, yet determined. Finally, a faint glow appeared in the distance, different from her pet's light, warm and inviting. Kale nodded toward it. "That is our exit," he said. "The surface is near. But one more challenge awaits." Lyra's pulse quickened, hope mingled with fear. The labyrinth opened into a massive cavern, the ice walls glittering like stars in the dim light. Above, a frozen waterfall blocked the path, cascading in solid blue crystal. The hunter's footsteps echoed faintly, closer than before, and Lyra realized time was running out. Kale turned to her, eyes sharp. "Hold your pet tight, we move together. And do not look down." Lyra nodded, gripping her pet, feeling its soft warmth, its quiet courage blending with her own. The final challenge awaited, a test of bravery, trust, and survival. The labyrinth had not broken them, the storm had not defeated them, and now together, human and alien, they would face the ice wall and the hunters above. With determination burning in her chest, Lyra took a deep breath, ready for the leap that could save them. And in that moment, she understood the meaning of courage, the strength of hope, and the bond that had formed between her pet and Kale. The ice labyrinth was deadly, but it could not break the will of those who refused to surrender. The massive ice wall rose before them, glinting blue under the faint light. Lyra's heart pounded in her chest, and her pet pressed tightly against her, its small body trembling with anticipation. Kale studied the wall, his eyes sharp, scanning every crack and ledge. "This is the final barrier," he said, voice calm but urgent. "We must climb carefully. One wrong step and we fall." Lyra nodded, swallowing her fear, gripping her pet closer. ready to follow him no matter what. Kale went first, testing each ledge, his movements precise and confident. The ice was slick, and snow from above threatened to slide down in chunks. Lyra watched him, learning from each motion, her fear slowly transforming into determination. She could do this, she had survived worse, she reminded herself, gripping the ice with careful strength. Her pet chirped softly as if encouraging her, glowing brighter with each step she took. The climb was treacherous, her fingers numbing as they scraped against the sharp ice. Snow and frost threatened to blind her, and every gust of wind pushed her backward. Kale reached down, grabbing her hand, steadying her. "One step at a time," he whispered. She nodded, trusting him completely, moving with careful precision, following his lead. Her legs shook, her lungs burned, but she kept climbing, her pet clinging to her chest. The bond between them felt stronger than the fear surrounding them. Courage flowing from Kale and her pet into her heart. Halfway up, a chunk of ice broke loose, sliding down toward them with a thunderous crash. Lyra screamed, but Kale reacted instantly, pushing her to the side, shielding her with his body. The ice struck the ledge just below, sending shards scattering like diamonds. Her pet squealed, and Lyra hugged it tighter, relief flooding her as the danger passed. Kale's hand remained firm around hers, his calm energy anchoring her. "You must focus," he said, voice low. "The hunters may be close, and we cannot afford mistakes." The final stretch loomed above them, a sheer vertical wall of ice with barely a foothold. Lyra's fingers were raw, her arms shaking, but she refused to give up. Kyle reached a small ledge, holding out his hand. "Take it, we are almost there." She gripped him tightly, and with one powerful pull he hoisted her onto the ledge. Her pet slipped from her arms for a moment, glowing frantically, but Kale caught it, wrapping it safely in his coat. They rested for a breath, hearts racing, knowing that the exit lay just above them. From above, distant footsteps echoed, sharp and deliberate, the hunters closing in. Lyra's stomach churned with fear, but Kale's calm determination gave her strength. He motioned upward toward a narrow passage at the top of the wall. "Follow me carefully, no rushing," he whispered. "We must stay silent until we reach safety." Lyra nodded, pulling herself up inch by inch, her pet clinging to her chest, glowing softly. The ice wall was unforgiving, but the thought of survival, of freedom, pushed her onward. Finally, they reached the top, the passage leading to a frozen plateau beyond the labyrinth. The storm above had calmed slightly, and the sky showed faint hints of sunlight. Pale and distant, Kale led the way across the plateau, eyes scanning for threats, footprints of hunters still visible in the snow. Lyra moved with caution, her pet alert, sensing danger even when she could not. The plateau stretched wide, icy cliffs rising on all sides, but the path ahead seemed clear for the moment. Kale paused, turning to her. "We are not completely safe, but this is our chance to escape," Lyra nodded, exhaustion and relief mingling in her chest. She realized how much she had changed since the storm began, how fear had transformed into courage. Her bond with Kale and her pet felt unbreakable. A trio of survivors against impossible odds. They pressed forward, moving swiftly across the plateau, shadows of cliff stretching long in the dim light. Suddenly, a sharp cry echoed across the ice. Distant but distinct, Lyra froze, gripping her pet tightly, fear flaring in her chest. Kale's hand tightened around hers. "Stay close," he said, scanning the horizon. A group of hunters emerged from the snow, their shapes blurry but menacing. Lyra's heart raced, but she remembered the lessons of the labyrinth. The storm, the valley, they had survived this far, and with Kale's strength and her courage, they would survive again. The hunters advanced, but Kale moved with calculated speed, leading them toward a narrow ice canyon. "The path is tight, they cannot follow easily," he said. Glancing back, Lyra followed, heart pounding, pet glowing brightly, courage and determination flowing through them. The frozen leap had brought them this far, but the chase was not over. Yet Lyra felt something deep within, a strength she had never known before. The bond of survival, trust, and hope would carry them through the final trials of the valley. And as the hunters struggled to keep up, Lyra knew they had a chance. The first true chance of freedom they had seen. The narrow ice canyon forced Kale, Lyra, and her glowing pet to move cautiously. The walls pressed in on both sides. Glittering sharp and dangerous, every step echoed loudly, and Lyra's heart raced above. Faint sunlight flickered through cracks, painting the ice in pale blues and whites. Kale's eyes never left the canyon's exit, scanning for hunters, traps, and hidden dangers. Lyra followed closely, clutching her pet, drawing courage from the steady presence of Kale. The hunter's cries echoed faintly behind them. Growing louder with each step, Lyra's stomach twisted with fear, but she refused to slow, remembering the storm, the valley, the labyrinth, and the ice wall. Each trial had strengthened her, shaped her into someone capable of surviving in a harsh galaxy. Kale led with quiet confidence, his movements fluid and precise. "This way," he whispered, pointing to a narrow ledge above, barely wide enough for them to pass. Lyra climbed with effort, her pet clinging to her chest, glowing faintly as if cheering her onward. The ledge was icy and fragile, each footstep threatening a fall into the canyon below. Suddenly, a portion of the ledge cracked, sending shards of ice tumbling into the void. Lyra screamed softly, and Kale caught her arm, pulling her safely to a more secure spot. "Careful," he murmured, eyes scanning the shadows above and below. She nodded, shaking, but determination flared in her chest. Fear was still there, but so was courage, stronger than she had ever imagined. The hunters were close, but the ice canyon favored them. Narrow paths slowing their pursuers, Lyra's mind raced, thinking of every step, every mistake, every triumph they had survived together. The canyon twisted suddenly, revealing a frozen waterfall, glimmering like crystal. Kale's eyes narrowed. "This is the final challenge," he said. Voice calm but urgent, Lyra's heart skipped a beat, looking at the sheer wall of ice that blocked their path. Her pet chirped nervously, and she hugged it closer, feeling its warmth and courage. Kale tested the surface, tapping the ice, searching for cracks or footholds. "The ice is thin in some spots, but strong in others," he explained. We climbed together, step by step, step by step. They ascended the frozen wall, hands raw from the sharp ice. Snow fell from above, cold and blinding, yet Kale moved with precision, guiding them to safety. Lyra followed every movement, learning to trust instinct and courage. Her pet's glow pulsed softly, a steady light in the frozen darkness. The canyon seemed endless, each climb a test of strength, will, and trust. The hunters cried out, frustration clear in their voices as the trio moved ahead. They could not navigate the narrow ledges and hidden ice traps as easily. Finally, they reached the top of the frozen waterfall, a plateau stretching wide before them. The wind was harsh but free from the canyon's trap. Kale helped Lyra onto stable ground, her legs weak but her spirit unbroken. Her pet jumped from her arms, running and glowing. Exploring the new space cautiously, they could see the valley's edge ahead, a line of green and brown safe land beyond the frozen wasteland. For the first time in days, Lyra allowed herself to hope, feeling the warmth of survival and determination. Kale looked at her, eyes soft behind his visor. "Almost there," he said, "one more stretch, and we are free." The hunters' voices were distant now, slowed by the treacherous canyon behind them. Lyra's chest rose and fell rapidly, exhaustion and adrenaline mixing. She hugged her pet, whispering softly, "We are so close." The bond between human, alien, and pet had grown stronger through trials. Fear had taught them caution, danger had taught them strategy, and survival had taught them courage. They moved quickly across the plateau, snow crunching beneath their boots. Kale scanned constantly, but the terrain was easier. The hunters falling farther behind, Lyra's spirit soared, each step a victory over the frozen valley that had threatened to claim them. Her pet glowed brighter, chirping softly, sensing the hope and relief surrounding them. At last the forest appeared ahead, trees thick and sheltering, a barrier against the wind. Kale smiled faintly. "We made it," he said, voice low but filled with satisfaction. Lyra's eyes filled with tears, relief flooding her chest. They had survived storms, hunters, ice labyrinths, and the frozen canyon. The impossible had been overcome by courage, trust, and determination. As they entered the forest, warmth replaced cold, shadows replaced blinding snow. Lyra felt her legs finally steady, her heart lighter than it had been in days. She hugged her pet tightly, grateful for its companionship and bravery. Kale walked beside them, silent but vigilant, eyes scanning for the final threats. The hunters' cries faded behind them, lost in the frozen wilderness, for now they were safe. But Lyra knew the galaxy held other dangers. She also knew that with Kale and her pet by her side, she could face anything. Hope had returned, stronger than fear, and the journey had changed her forever. The frozen plateau behind them seemed less cruel now, a memory of survival. Lyra looked at the human beside her, realizing the depth of bravery and kindness in one being. Her pet purred, glowing warmly, a symbol of life and resilience. And as they moved deeper into the forest, Lyra understood that courage, trust, and hope could overcome even the deadliest odds. The final chase had ended, but their story, their adventure, was only beginning. The forest welcomed them with quiet shadows and rustling leaves. Lyra's legs ached, her arms were sore, but her heart soared with relief. Her pet scurried ahead, glowing softly and chirping as if celebrating their survival. Kale moved beside her, calm and vigilant, scanning for hidden dangers, though the hunters were nowhere in sight. For the first time in days, Lyra felt a sense of safety, though cautious optimism lingered in her chest. The trees grew thicker, and the snow beneath their boots faded into patches of soft earth. Sunlight peeked through the branches, pale but comforting, warming her frozen fingers. "This way," Kyle said, pointing to a small clearing ahead. "We can rest here safely." "At least for a while," Lyra nodded, hugging her pet tightly, feeling its warmth and steady glow. She had never imagined she would survive so much, yet here she was, alive. The valley that had seemed endless and merciless now felt like a memory, distant but unforgettable. They reached the clearing, a small oasis with rocks, shrubs, and a faint stream partially thawed. Kyle knelt, checking the water and making it safe to drink. Lyra followed suit, kneeling beside him, her pet drinking softly from the stream. The taste of fresh water filled her with energy, her body thanking her for the small comfort. Kale glanced at her. "You were brave," he said, eyes reflecting both respect and pride. Lyra's chest swelled with a strange emotion, courage and gratitude mingling. "I had to survive," she whispered. "For my pet, for me, for you," Kale nodded. "And you did," he said simply. "You've learned to face fear and overcome it. And that is what makes you strong." The hunters were gone, the frozen valley behind them, and the forest ahead promised safety and new beginnings. Lyra looked at Kale, realizing how much trust and hope could shape survival. Her pet purred and nuzzled her neck, a small warmth spreading through her chest. She felt a connection stronger than fear, stronger than cold or hunger. The bond between human, alien, and companion was unbreakable now, forged in trials and dangers. Kale set up a small fire in the clearing, the flames flickering softly, giving warmth and light for the first time. Lyra allowed herself to relax, letting exhaustion fade into the glow of hope. As night fell, the stars appeared above, twinkling faintly through gaps in the trees. Lyra gazed up, her pet curled in her lap. Glowing gently, she thought of the valley, the labyrinth, the ice wall, the hunters, and the endless storm. Each obstacle had tested them, but each obstacle had also strengthened their courage and trust. Kale sat nearby, silent but alert, watching the perimeter with calm precision. Lyra realized that humans were not only strong and clever, they were capable of immense kindness and bravery, and she had experienced that firsthand, a truth that filled her heart with gratitude and hope. Morning came slowly, painting the forest in soft golden hues. Lyra stood, stretching stiff limbs, her pet at her side, glowing softly in the dawn. Kale gestured toward the horizon, where the forest opened to hills and distant settlements. "We should move," he said. "The journey is not over, but this part of the valley is behind us." Lyra nodded. Feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, she had faced death, storms, hunters, and ice. Yet here she was, stronger, braver, alive. Her pet chirped and ran ahead, exploring cautiously but confidently. Together, the trio moved forward, leaving the frozen valley behind. Carrying lessons of courage, hope, and survival, the sun rose higher, warming the forest and fading the memory of ice and snow. Lyra glanced at Kyle, understanding now what she had learned on this journey. Strength alone was not enough to survive. Bravery alone was not enough. Trust, kindness, and the bonds between beings, human or alien, were what could overcome impossible odds. Her pet glowed brighter, sensing her joy and hope. Chirping softly in harmony, Lyra reached out and touched Kale's arm. A simple gesture of gratitude and trust. He smiled faintly. "You are ready for the galaxy, Lyra," he said. Ready for what comes next, they walked on, leaving footprints in soft earth instead of snow, the frozen valley behind them. A chapter of trials and courage complete. The forest opened to new horizons, distant mountains and rivers promising new adventures. Lyra held her pet close, feeling a strength she never knew she had. Kyle led the way, always vigilant, always steady, yet trusting Lyra to move forward alongside him. The journey had changed them all. bonded them in ways that went beyond fear or survival, and as they disappeared into the morning light, the galaxy seemed vast but no longer frightening, for together, human, alien, and companion could face anything the universe had to offer. The frozen valley was a memory now, but the courage, trust, and hope it forged would last forever. Lyra whispered softly to her pet. We survived. And we will survive anything, the pet chirped, glowing warmly, a small star in their shared adventure. Kyle glanced at them both, eyes soft, and nodded. Yes, we will. And together they stepped forward, leaving behind ice and fear, embracing freedom, adventure, and the boundless promise of life beyond the frozen valley.